Billionaire sees Maid's daughter returning her brother's birthday cake. The box is small, the icing slightly smeared, and her hands shake as she tries to explain why she is bringing it back instead of taking it home. In the hallway of a house built for people who never worry about the price of anything, her whisper is swallowed by polished floors and cold stares. Someone accuses. Someone laughs softly. Someone turns away. And from the far end of the corridor, a man who was never meant to notice her suddenly stops, watching the moment unfold, ready to interrupt it in a way no one expects next. Before we start, tell us, from which city are you watching from? And don't forget to drop your thoughts at the end. Enjoy the story. Claire Bennett grew up in a narrow two-bedroom apartment on the edge of Boston, where the heating rattled in the winter and the neighbors argued through thin walls. She learned early that nothing came without effort, so she moved through life careful, steady, and determined not to be a burden to anyone. Her mother worked long shifts as a maid in the Hawthorne household, and when the job finally passed to Claire, she accepted it the way she had accepted everything else, with quiet resolve and a promise to herself to stand straight, no matter who was watching. Most mornings began before dawn. Claire would step into the cold hallway of her building, clutching her bus fare, $6.25 exactly, and repeat the rule that kept her moving through every long day. We don't bow. We don't break. She never said it aloud, but she felt it settle in her chest each time she caught her reflection in the bus window. She wasn't trying to climb anyone's ladder. She only wanted enough stability so her little brother Daniel wouldn't have to memorize prices the way she did. Inside the Hawthorne home, she was surrounded by white marble, silver fixtures, and a silence that belonged to people who expected the world to adjust to them. Claire blended in like a shadow, polite, invisible, predictable. She understood routines, expectations, and the unspoken rule that staff should remain unnoticed unless something went wrong. Still, she kept her dignity tucked close, even when the head housekeeper reminded her to use back entrances or keep her eyes lowered when guests toured the property. Claire never challenged it. She simply endured. But on the morning that mattered, the routine shifted. Something small, barely noticeable, fell out of place, and Claire felt the first crack of a day that would not follow the rules she depended on. The shift began with a rare piece of good news. Claire had picked up an unexpected half-day of extra hours. Marjorie Lane, the head housekeeper, mentioned that a delivery needed supervision and trusted Claire to manage it alone. Extra hours meant a little more money, and that meant Claire could finally afford the small birthday cake Daniel had pointed to the week before. Nothing fancy, just a simple vanilla round with blue frosting. The kind a child stares at through a bakery window and believes is made just for him. She planned it carefully. After her shift, she would stop by the bakery 2 blocks from the bus stop, pay for the cake with the overtime money, and bring it home before Daniel returned from school. The idea filled her with a quiet warmth, something she rarely let herself feel. A normal family moment. A candle, a wish, a small pause from the grind. Inside the Hawthorne house, the day felt strangely calm. No unexpected guests, no catering setups, no frantic calls from upstairs. Claire moved through the rooms with unusual ease, polishing surfaces that already gleamed, straightening cushions that barely needed attention. For once, the house seemed to let her breathe. Even Marjorie seemed less severe, waving Claire toward a shorter list of tasks than usual. "Finish these, and you can head out early," she said, her voice flat but not unkind. Claire nodded. Surprised, but grateful, an early exit meant she could pick up the cake before the afternoon rush. For a moment, it felt like the day might stay gentle. But as Claire walked past the service corridor, she noticed a small detail she couldn't ignore. Something sitting where it didn't belong. Something that would pull her back into the house when she most needed to leave it. And that quiet shift in the air told her the good fortune she'd counted on might not hold. The thing out of place was a cake box, white, taped neatly, with the faint smell of sugar escaping from its seams. At first, Claire thought it belonged to the catering team, but the labels stopped her cold. Same bakery, same size, same blue frosting description written in looping pen. It was the exact cake she had planned to buy for Daniel. Marjorie spotted her staring. "It was delivered by mistake," she said briskly. "The Hawthorns ordered a different style for tonight's gathering. This one needs to be returned immediately. Take it back before the manager thinks we're careless." Returned. The words struck her with a dull thud. She hesitated only a second, long enough for Marjorie to narrow her eyes. "Is there a problem?" "No," Claire said quickly, even though there was. This meant she couldn't buy Daniel's cake today. She didn't have time to make 2 trips across the city. If she returned this one now, she'd miss the bakery before closing. The overtime money burning in her pocket suddenly felt useless. Still, she lifted the box. It was warm, fresh, perfect. Daniel would have loved it. She carried it through the hallway, hoping no one would notice her flushed face or the way her hands trembled. But as she rounded the corner toward the staff exit, a group of guests wandered into the corridor. Well-dressed, laughing softly, their drinks half raised. One of them glanced at her, then at the box. "What's she doing with that?" a woman asked, voice sharp with suspicion. Marjorie appeared behind Claire, as if summoned by tension. "She's returning it," she said, her tone clipped, almost defensive. "It's not for us." The woman stepped closer, scrutinizing Claire as though she were an inconvenience rather than a person. "Sure she is. You'd be surprised what staff try to slip out with." Heat surged up Claire's neck. "I'm doing what I was asked," she said quietly. The woman raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. "Then why do you look guilty?" A man chuckled, sipping his drink, probably hoping no one would notice. "Happens everywhere. Paragraph free." Claire felt exposed, trapped between their assumptions and the cake she now wished she'd never touched. She tried to take a step back, but her shoes slipped slightly on the polished floor, prompting another amused snicker. "She should put it down," the woman said. "Before there's a misunderstanding." Misunderstanding. The word hung in the air like an accusation. Marjorie didn't defend her. The guests didn't move aside. Claire stood in the cold hallway of wealth she could never belong to, holding a cake she couldn't keep, surrounded by faces waiting for her to crumble. And at the far end of the corridor, someone else had stopped walking, watching every word, every gesture, his expression unreadable, but his attention unmistakably fixed on her. Elliot Hawthorne hadn't planned to be in that wing of the house. He rarely walked through the service corridor unless a meeting required him to take a call in private. But that afternoon, something had pulled him from his office. A restless irritation he couldn't name, a need to step away from the polished conference table where his board had spent all morning arguing about a new philanthropic initiative. He needed silence. He needed distance. Instead, he walked straight into the simmering moment he was never supposed to witness. From 20 feet away, he saw Claire first, not by name, because he didn't know it yet, but by her posture. Stiff, cornered, carrying something small but weighted. The cluster of guests blocking her path looked out of place in the narrow corridor, like predators strayed from their natural territory. Their sharp laughter carried too loudly in a space meant for work, not display. Elliot paused. Observing was second nature to him. It was how he survived boardrooms filled with men eager to impress him or manipulate him. But this was different. This was uglier. He studied the cake box in Claire's hands, the faint tremble of her fingers, the familiar bakery logo stamped on the corner. It was a simple mistake, clearly. A wrong order, a return errand. Nothing more than an inconvenience. Yet the guests weren't treating it that way. Their posture told another story. Amusement tinted with accusation, curiosity mixed with superiority. He recognized the tone instantly. He'd heard it directed at staff in hotels, drivers, caterers, anyone who occupied the spaces his peers believed existed solely to serve them. He hated that tone. It reminded him of the house he grew up in, where worth was measured in distance, how far one stood above someone else. Marjorie's presence only deepened his unease. She stood rigid, defensive, but not protective. She let the guests' comments hang unchallenged, and Elliot could see Claire shrinking not from guilt, but from the humiliation of fighting an accusation she knew she wasn't allowed to contest. He watched the woman in the navy dress tilt her head, mockingly polite. She looks worried. Why is she worried if she's just returning it? Elliot felt something shift inside him, a sharp, decisive disapproval. He stepped forward before he could question it. Guests straightened when they saw him approach, their smiles slicing into shapes of sudden respect. Claire didn't look up. She seemed braced for impact, shoulders tight, jaw set. Elliot glanced at the cake again, then at her. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was mistreatment, and he was done watching it unfold. Elliot didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His presence alone cut through the murmuring tension. The guests shifted, their earlier smugness thinning as they realized the power dynamic had changed. "What seems to be the issue?" he asked, eyes moving calmly over the group before settling on Marjorie. Marjorie straightened. "Just a mistaken delivery, sir. She's returning it." "A mistaken delivery?" Elliot repeated, his tone neutral but edged. He took the box gently from Claire's hands, not dismissively, but with the deliberate care of someone touching something fragile. Then why is she being questioned as if she isn't doing exactly what she was told? The woman in the navy dress opened her mouth, then hesitated. "We were only insinuating theft," Elliot asked, still calmly. "In my home?" Her cheeks flushed a startled pink. She looked away. Elliot turned slightly, placing the cake box under his arm in a way that silently confirmed possession. "This is house inventory. She's handling it because I require it. Is that unclear?" No one answered. The corridor softened into an uncomfortable quiet. Claire didn't move, unsure whether she was being protected or made more visible than she ever wanted to be. Elliot looked at her directly then. "You're doing your job. Continue with the return, and take the Stas car. There's no reason for you to run errands on foot today." A gasp flickered through the group. Staff car privileges were rare, reserved for senior employees. Claire felt heat climb to her face, not from shame, but from the shock of being acknowledged at all. Marjorie stepped forward, attempting to reassert control. "Sir, that may not be." "It is," Elliot said, final in a way that left no room for correction. Claire swallowed. She nodded once, quietly. The guests parted for her, suddenly polite, suddenly careful. But as she walked away, she knew one thing with absolute certainty. Whatever Elliot Hawthorne had just done, it had changed more than an errand. It had changed the entire night. The staff car waited outside, engine humming softly, but Claire didn't step in. She stood just beyond the service door, the cold Boston air sharp against her face. Before she could steady her breathing, The door swung open behind her. Helen Bennett, her mother, had arrived early for her evening shift. Claire stiffened. She hadn't wanted her mother to hear anything. "What happened inside?" Helen asked, voice low but firm. "Marjorie already pulled me aside. She said you drew attention, that you let Mr. Hawthorne involve himself." Claire closed her eyes. "I didn't let anything happen. They were accusing me." He stopped it. "That is not our place," Helen snapped, not cruelly, but with the weary authority of someone who has survived too many battles by refusing to fight any of them. "We work here because we stay quiet. We stay small. Attention brings consequences." Claire turned toward her. "I wasn't stealing. I wasn't doing anything wrong." "That does not matter," Helen whispered. "What matters is how it looked, and how it looks is everything in a house like this." It was the old argument, the one Helen lived by. Safety through invisibility. Security through silence. Claire felt the words rising before she could push them down. "I won't apologize for something I didn't do. I won't pretend I deserve suspicion just because I wear a uniform." Helen's eyes softened with something like fear. "You think dignity will protect you in a world like theirs? No. Following the rules does." Claire swallowed hard. "Their rules humiliate people like us." Helen shook her head slowly, as if Claire were too young to understand. Humiliation is survivable. Unwanted attention is not. For a moment, neither spoke. Only the exhaust from the car drifted between them. Then Helen delivered the quiet ultimatum. "Return the cake, do it quickly, and pray the Hawthorns forget your name." Claire tightened her grip on the box, because forgetting her name suddenly felt like the worst possible outcome. The bakery was only 15 minutes away by car, but the ride felt longer. Claire kept the cake box on her lap, holding it steady against every turn. The warmth from earlier had faded. Now the cardboard felt cold, as if the sweetness inside no longer belonged to her world at all. She watched the city pass through the window, brick buildings, narrow sidewalks, people carrying bags home for the evening, and wondered how something as simple as a birthday cake had turned into a reminder of how small she was allowed to be. When she stepped into the bakery, the bell over the door chimed brightly, almost mockingly cheerful. The manager recognized the box immediately and frowned apologetically. "This happens sometimes," he said. "Wrong address? Wrong order. I'll refund it to the account we have on file." Claire nodded, trying to hide the ache behind her composure. It wasn't the bakery's fault. It wasn't anyone's fault, she told herself. But the truth sat heavier than the box she surrendered. She had returned the one thing she promised herself she'd bring home today. When she stepped back outside, Elliot was leaning against the staff car, hands in his coat pockets. She froze mid-step. She hadn't expected him to follow her. She certainly hadn't expected him to wait. He studied her face for a long moment. "You didn't look all right back there," he said, not accusing, just observing. Claire kept her eyes on the sidewalk. "I handled it." "You shouldn't have had to," he replied quietly. That stung more than she expected. Pity always did. "I don't need saving." "That wasn't saving," Elliot said. "That was correcting a lie before it rooted itself." She looked up at him then, really looked. There was no smugness, no demand for gratitude. Just a man who had seen a situation he couldn't ignore. But that didn't make the aftermath easier to swallow. "You stood up for me," she said. "But that only makes the house look at me differently. They'll talk. They already are." Elliot didn't flinch. "They'll talk for a day, maybe two. Then they'll move on. You don't know that world the way I do," she answered. "They don't forget when someone like me becomes visible." For the first time, something flickered across his expression. Uncertainty. maybe even guilt. He opened his mouth, but Claire cut him off. I had a plan today, a simple one, and it collapsed the moment someone decided a maid's daughter shouldn't be trusted with a cake. Silence settled between them, not hostile, but fragile. Finally, Elliot asked, "Is there anything I can do to fix what happened?" "No," she said, "but you've already changed it." Before he could respond, her phone buzzed in her coat pocket. A message from home, from Daniel, sent with the innocence of a child who didn't know any of this had unfolded. "Will you be home soon? Can I light my candle now?" Claire felt her throat tighten. She slipped the phone away without answering and stepped toward the car. "Take me back," she said softly. But neither of them knew that returning was only the beginning of what the night would demand of them next. The next morning, Claire arrived at the Hawthorne house, prepared to keep her head down, finish her tasks, and avoid every conversation she didn't absolutely need to have. But the moment she stepped through the back entrance, Marjorie intercepted her with a tightly folded sheet of paper. "Mr. Hawthorne wants you in the East Study," she said. Now, Claire's stomach tightened. The East Study was never used for staff matters. It was where Elliot held private meetings, where decisions about foundations, grants, and large-scale projects were made. She walked there with steady steps, bracing for reprimand, reassignment, or something worse. Inside, Elliot was standing by a long table covered in folders and architectural sketches. He looked up, expression unreadable. "I'm starting a new community initiative," he said. "A pilot program for after-school support in lower-income neighborhoods. Your neighborhood." Claire blinked. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because," he replied, "I need someone who understands the realities on the ground. Someone who can help identify which schools and families would benefit first." "I'm not qualified for that," Claire said immediately. "You are," he answered. "You know the people, you know the needs, and I'm not asking you to build the program, only to walk me through the places you already navigate." She hesitated. Accepting meant visibility. It meant stepping out of the quiet corner where staff were expected to stay. But declining felt equally heavy, like turning away from something that could matter. Elliot interpreted her silence. "This isn't charity, Claire. It's work, and I'll pay you for the hours." That at least grounded her. Honest labor she could understand. They spent the rest of the morning reviewing maps, school rosters, and bus routes. It was awkward at first. Elliot overly formal, Claire overly cautious, but slowly, practical conversation replaced tension. She explained which community centers actually reached kids like Daniel, which ones were only polished facades. Elliot listened, took notes, and asked questions that showed he wasn't just performing interest. By midday, the distance between Billionaire and Maid's daughter hadn't vanished. But something quieter had taken shape. An understanding built not on rescue, but on shared effort. And Claire felt, for the first time, that he wasn't just seeing her, he was hearing her. It happened late in the afternoon, when the study had grown quiet, and the winter light stretched long across the hardwood floors. Claire was sorting through enrollment statistics from her neighborhood schools, when she found a thin folder tucked between the outreach proposals. It wasn't labeled, just marked with a date from nearly a decade earlier. She opened it without thinking, then froze. Inside were internal reports commissioned by the Hawthorne Foundation, detailing staffing practices across their properties. One section was highlighted: a cost efficiency policy recommending reduced wages for domestic workers in legacy households, justified by expected loyalty and low likelihood of turnover. Claire recognized the wording. It described people like her mother, people who stayed because leaving meant instability. Elliot noticed her stillness. "What is it?" She handed him the folder. "This isn't just a funding issue," she said quietly. "It's an expectation, an invisible system that keeps people in place because they don't have the power to move." Elliot read the report, line by line. His expression tightened, not defensive, but shaken. "I didn't know this was part of our policy history." "It's still happening," Claire replied. "Not on paper maybe, but in practice. Loyalty used as leverage. Silence rewarded. Humiliation tolerated because people need the paycheck." He didn't argue. Instead, he traced a highlighted sentence with his thumb, as if the words were heavier than he expected. "My father oversaw these," he said. He believed stability came from controlling the foundation's budget and the people within it. Claire answered, with her own quiet truth. Stability shouldn't come from keeping people small. For a long moment, neither spoke. The air between them held an uncomfortable symmetry. His wealth built on a system she had lived under her entire life. Finally, Elliot closed the folder. "If this program is going to mean anything," he said, "it has to start with acknowledging the damage underneath everything we build." Claire nodded. "The invisible engine," she murmured. "The labor no one sees." "And the gilded cage," Elliot added softly. "The privilege that blinds the people inside it." Together, they realized they weren't designing an outreach project. They were dismantling something much larger. The Hawthorne Foundation board met that Friday evening in the grand dining hall, a room designed to intimidate. High ceilings, oil portraits, long polished table. Claire had never stepped inside it before. She stood near the back wall, invited only because Elliot insisted the initiative briefing required voices from the community. Most board members offered her polite, distant nods. A few did not acknowledge her at all. Elliot opened the meeting by reviewing the outline of the new after-school program. The board murmured approval, until he placed the thin, decade-old folder in the center of the table. "I found this in our archives," he said, "and we need to address it before we move forward." Marjorie, serving water at the far end, stiffened when she recognized the document. One of the older board members frowned. "That was standard practice at the time. We phased it out." "No," Elliot replied. "We buried it. And the attitudes behind it are still operating in this house." The air thinned instantly. Another member leaned back, defensive. "What exactly are you implying?" Elliot looked toward Claire, not to put her on display, but to give weight to the truth. "Ask her," he said. "Ask someone who has lived under these assumptions." A wave of attention shifted toward Claire. She wasn't ready. She wasn't comfortable. But she also wasn't silent. She stepped forward, slowly. "People like my mother work here because they need stability. And that need has been used to excuse treatment that would never be tolerated in any other workplace. When humiliation happens, it's ignored. When someone speaks up, it's considered ungrateful." A murmur rose, surprise from some, disapproval from others. Claire kept her voice steady. Loyalty should never be a reason to underpay or disrespect someone. And silence shouldn't be the price of keeping a job. One board member bristled. "You're a maid's daughter. You don't understand the larger structure." Elliot cut in, sharp and clear. "She understands the structure better than any of us. She lives in the part we pretend doesn't exist." The room fell silent. Power had shifted, not violently, but unmistakably. And for the first time in that house, the truth stood at the center of the table, undeniable, and seen by every witness in the room. A week later, Claire stood once again in the same service corridor where everything had spiraled. The polished floor, the hushed air, the sharp edges of wealth. Nothing had changed. And yet everything had. At the end of the hall sat a small bakery box, identical to the one she had carried on the worst day of her year. But this time, it wasn't a mistaken delivery. It wasn't something she was ordered to return. It was waiting for her, intentionally placed. Elliot approached with quiet steps. "For Daniel," he said simply. "Purchased, not donated. And charged to my personal account. Equal exchange, no strings." Claire opened the box and saw the blue frosted cake. Fresh, warm, the exact one Daniel had dreamed about. But the symbol mattered more than the sweetness. It didn't represent humiliation anymore. It represented correction. Respect, a shift in a house that had never shifted before. In the following days, new policies were posted, wages adjusted, and staff meetings held where everyone was treated as if their voice mattered. The board had resisted at first, but Elliot's insistence and Claire's testimony left no room for the old rules to hide. As Claire carried the cake toward the door, ready to take it home, she passed the spot where the guests once accused her. She didn't stop. She didn't need to. Judgment had already been made, quietly and unmistakably. For the first time in that household, a maid's daughter walked out not smaller, but taller, holding the very object that once threatened to break her, now transformed into a symbol of the dignity she refused to surrender. Stories like this remind us that dignity often survives in the smallest moments, even when the world tries to strip it away. If this story made you feel something, let it stay with you. And if you want more, subscribe, comment, and watch the next story here on Echoes of Hope.